Welcome to yet another episode of Screen Surfers. We're still at it. This episode, we will be reviewing the newly released Disney Plus show, Star Wars Obi-Wan. Is that what it's called?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan
I don't even know.
Kenobi.
I think they're not even doing that's not even Star Wars.
It's just Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, it's like I think they did when they released Rogue One. It was Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and then I think it was Solo. A Star Wars story, and then with television they were like, well, fuck it, we're not doing movies anymore.
It was just The Mandalorian and
Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett, and then now Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's the Book of Boba Fett one's weird to me, like adding
the book of
like. It's cool. I like the title. It's just like it doesn't seem like they have any sort of like a.
We're also sticklers for naming conventions being uniform.
True. Shit like that pisses me off. The
like,
Chronicles of Riddick.
I was just gonna say,
incredible series, beautiful movie, super underrated. Fucking watch them. But holy fuck, do they have the most infuriating non-naming conventions of all time. Anyway, different sci-fi franchise
for another day.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Star Wars show obviously revolves around the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously. So at least the title is very true. It takes place between episode 3 and episode 4. I think they said it's 10 years after the end of episode 3 about. So
10 years into the Inquisition / the eradication of the Jedi is the idea.
The Rise of the Empire.
The Empire
is kind of
it's established. It's there. They have they're going throughout. It starts with Well, no, it doesn't start with. Well, we see, I guess we see the Jedi being exterminated, and some of them getting away in that opening scene. That's the opening scene. I'm not going to say anything more in terms of spoilers, but it essentially centers around. So far, anyways, there's two kind of stories we're following. We're following Obi-Wan and the Jedi. Maybe there are some, maybe there's not, who knows, and young Princess Leia. And those are kind of the two stories that we're seeing in the first. I haven't seen the third episode that just got released, but the first two episodes, that's kind of the two storylines that we're following.
So I think that's probably a question people would have. It's like, well, wasn't Obi-Wan on Tatooine the whole time, like looking after Luke? And so they came up with a pretty good reason for him to leave Tatooine, which is this is the inciting incident, so it's not spoiling too much. It's fucking first episode, so fuck off. Princess Leia, we get to see, like, they're 10 years old, so we get to see a young Princess Leia, and she gets kidnapped, and then they ask Obi-Wan to leave the planet and go save her. So that's kind of the inciting incident. That's why
they plead with him, and they almost say something. They almost word for word say, "You're her only hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan."
Yes. I'm gonna say right off the bat, the thing that blew me away about this series before I even saw an episode was, I don't know really why I was so surprised, but the fact that they got Ewan McGregor to come back and reprise the role, for me, I kind of had me go into this with high hopes, just because Ewan McGregor's a great actor, and he was the best part for me. One of the best parts of the the prequels. So
probably I'd even say like he's probably the best part.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I mean, the lightsaber, like the choreography, the lightsaber fights are fucking cool.
Well, Qui-Gon Jinn also has a special place in my heart. I would say he's the best part for me. But Obi-Wan, major plus, and the fact, and again, seeing Ewan McGregor reprise that role, certainly had me going into this with high hopes.
Yeah, I'll say, like, this could lead into like a criticism I have of the show. But I'll say this, like, they have two actors who I think are like immense, like they're like understated, high profile, really like fucking excellent actors in episode 1, and that's Ewan McGregor and then Joel Edgerton, who plays Uncle Owen, and like they are two like knock it out of the park, phenomenal actors, and they do great. Like all the material they have, all like inhabiting those roles. I gotta give like props to Joel Edgerton. It's not like he has a ton to do in the episode, but how he's already, because you see him briefly in episode 2 and you see him really briefly in episode 3, but so you only get like a feel for him in episode 2. But how he started to like reflect how Uncle Owen is in episode 4, and how he's like starting to get that gruff, like, fuck off, like, you fucking, next season you can fucking leave.
We don't want none of these. We don't want none of this around here.
Yeah. Like, I was just super impressed with how much I was like, man, you feel like a younger version of the actor from episode 4 and how gruff he is. And like, similarly, I think like you could see how Ewan McGregor was starting to transition Obi-Wan from like episode 1 Obi-Wan and then like in episode 3 Obi-Wan to being kind of more Alec Guinness-y and a little more whatever. And I feel like you see more of that transition in this show. Like, he feels even more like he's trying to get a couple of those Alec Guinness isms in there and like trying to bridge that gap. I gotta say, like, one thing that feels like failure is an extreme word, but it's like maybe they should have made him look a little older. Like, it's weird that they you have this 10-year jump, and so now we're even closer, because like a lot of people have said, like, man, does Obi-Wan age severely in like the 20 years between episode 3 and episode 4. But it's like, it's weird that they did the 10-year jump and they had the opportunity to like kind of do that middle, really, like, get that transitional thing.
I mean,
and it's like,
maybe there's an incident later in the series that incites that. Maybe.
Severe stress.
Maybe something with the Force, or some like,
it's true,
time travel. I don't know, something.
Who knows? But yeah, that's like just a random fucking point, not a criticism, but just like that's interesting that they had the opportunity, and it like that has been something people have brought up before. I'll say, like, right off the bat, it's like the CGI in these shows and the costuming and all that stuff. It's fucking next level good. Like, it's what you would expect from a
feature
Star Wars
film.
property. Yeah, it 100%. Like, if you took this show, you cut it down, you put it on a movie screen, the effects would totally hold up. Like, maybe there's like a shot or one or two there, which are like transitional shots that you're like, okay, it's not a fucking movie, so it doesn't have the time. But to me, I'm very rarely do I ever see a shot that doesn't seem fucking like right up there with like AAA.
Certainly nothing.
Budget.
Certainly nothing that takes you out of it.
Yeah, no, nothing. Yeah, nothing egregious, nothing like that. So like, and like with Star Wars, which is kind of a unique thing that Star Wars does that I guess Star Trek does too, but not very many properties do, is like getting to see new planets, new alien races, new like very rarely do I think costumers and makeup people get the opportunity to like show off like that imaginativity and that creativity.
Total creativity. Like, usually impressive costuming is either one of two things. It's either, you know, something like this where it's creative, you're building a world, the costuming fits into this world building element that we're of a new place we've never seen before, or it's an elaborate recreation of something from history.
Yes.
And those are like the two, I imagine the two things as a costume designer that you want one of those two things, because it lets you show off your skills.
Yeah.
Like, thinking about like a rom-com, it's like, yeah, he's from California, he's a surfer guy, so he wears graphic tees, and you know what I mean? Like, what really real opportunity does the costume department
have? And I mean, like, obviously they're probably people who they're into fashion, so it's like they're getting a little bit of that cathartic, but it's like with a thing like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Star Trek or whatever, it's like they're getting an opportunity to like create, like totally I get create. Like from the ground up, I get to make. It's like the same thing as if somebody drew a fucking fantastic creature, they get to do the same thing with clothing. So I gotta like do a call out to like the makeuping and the costuming and that stuff. It's like, it's just phenomenal, incredible, like A-level shit. Like, just, it makes, and a lot of it's practical, which like it throws back to like old Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is remembered for some of its amazing practical effects and like how well they were able to blend VFX and practical effects. And so I think the one thing the Star Wars shows have done incredibly well is like honoring that legacy,
keeping that spirit alive.
And like, and it's very cool. And it's very cool with a show like this. And like, I'm trying to think of another one. This one's the big example, but it's like, because the show takes place between episode 3 and episode 4, it's bridging the gap between the two trilogies. And so obviously, like, you have your old fans who, like, they're diehard, they love the original trilogy and they hate the prequels. And then you have people from my generation who grew up with the prequels and we really enjoy them. And I love seeing with these new shows, like not only reverence shown for 4, 5, and 6, but
also
equal reverence shown for 1, 2, and 3. And the fact that it's like we're totally, even though like there's these fucking hater fans who don't like the prequels, we fuck them. It's like we're gonna show just as much respect and admiration for like the art and time that went into those movies as we are for 4, 5, and 6. And Obi-Wan's like perfect example. Like Rogue One did it incredibly, and I think Obi-Wan honestly similarly to Rogue One.
Rogue One is probably my favorite Star Wars movie. Honestly, it's tough. It's tough. Like there's nostalgia for all the other ones. Don't get me wrong, but like Rogue One is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
And I will say, just to your point there about showing reverence, honestly, one of my favorite moments in the first 2 episodes, kind of a throwaway moment, but I loved it when he encounters the clone trooper, who's like spare some credits for a guy down on his luck, just veteran of the Clone Wars kind of thing. And I was just like, oh shit, they're actually gonna talk about that.
No, that was very, very cool. I agree. That was shit like that. Just like that's what people love about Star Wars. It's like it's like that little bit of fan service that just like I'm back home. This is beautiful. It's like I love that they're reigniting the passion for Star Wars with these TV shows, and it's like they're creating an entire new generation of fans. They're pleasing old fans. Star Wars TV is just great, and so far it's been
and as someone who is a Star Wars fan who has a young son, like it's keeping it, if nothing else, it's keeping it relevant, so that it's not just like, oh, come and sit down and watch this old show that I used to watch. It's a thing that's active. It's still being created, so it's not as hard of a sell to introduce Drew to all the backstory and all the all the other properties. So I guess this might be a little scatterbrained, but it's like we said, it's like the acting is quite superb. I think the makeup and effects and stuff, it feels like Star Wars. It's all there. I really enjoy. So I saw the first 3 episodes. I've really enjoyed the first 3 episodes so far. I think there's 6 planned. Although I've seen some stuff online about like maybe there's some stuff that they're not telling people. But anyways, as of now, I think there's 6 episodes planned. Haven't seen them all, so can't like judge the show as a complete story. I don't know if they're problems, but there's some weirdness for me in the show though. And it has mostly to do with characterization. And so one thing, did you ever see the Star Wars Rebels show, like the animated show? That was the only one I didn't see. I saw the Clone Wars. Yes. I've seen that all the way through.
Yeah.
Rebels was the only one I've only seen episodes. I haven't seen it all the way through.
So I've seen all of Rebels, and I've played. Did you play? I can't remember. I don't think you didn't play Jedi Fallen Order either, did you?
No, not all the way through. No, it kind of lost me.
So one thing they do in Rebels and Jedi Fallen Order in particular is that's kind of where they introduce the Inquisitors, which are like one of the main antagonistic forces in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Yeah.
And they really set them up to be quite villainous and like imposing and like a threat. And they did a really, I don't know if they did such a good job in Rebels and in Fallen Order that it's weird. It's like they do, it almost felt like in certain scenes they did stuff to like undermine how threatening they were in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And a good example is like in the very first scene of the show is so the Inquisitors, their whole thing is like they track down Jedi and they kill Jedi, and that's their task, and they're right underneath Darth Vader, and Darth Vader kind of commands them. So in the first scene, so I'm not really spoiling anything, they find a Jedi, and the Jedi just kind of runs away. Like, it's like there's 3 Inquisitors, so it's like, man, this guy's fucked, and I want to see this guy get his fucking dick chopped off, for lack of a better, like I want to see how bad these Inquisitors are gonna. It's like it seemed like such a moment to establish what a threat they were, and the guy like more or less kind of just like he gets past one, and then he like pulls the thing down, and then he just like kind of zips away, and so that it's an example of how I feel like with the Inquisitors a bit. I wish I could see more about how.
Yeah, I got it.
Dangerous they are.
I disagree on that a little bit. Like my interpretation was more like almost like it wasn't dignified for them to be like scrambling after this Jedi. It's like it reminded me almost less intense, obviously, but it kind of reminded me of that scene in Inglourious Bastards where he like lets Shoshana just run away,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, au revoir, like haha, like you're gone, but it doesn't matter. And this kind of, in a different way, kind of harkened back to that, and it was kind of like, again, to me, it was like they're so imposing and so certain they're gonna catch this guy again. It's like, let him run it. Like, we're not gonna fucking scramble through the streets after you. We're gonna fucking find you.
Yeah,
we're gonna get you.
Yeah,
for me, it worked, but
I could see that. I guess
I also don't have the same expectations going into it, so that also might be a factor in why.
Yeah, no, and I think that it could just be one of those things where it's like you saw it and you interpreted it one way, and I saw it and it like interpreted it a different way, and so like totally could just be up to that. But I mean, like back to the characterization thing. So it's like little things like that, and then there's this one Inquisitor who's kind of the main, like she's kind of the main Inquisitor that they spend the most time with, and it's like some scenes I'm like, oh, this is great, and I really like your performance, and I really like what's going on here, and then some scenes I'm like,
this is too much, and it's over the top almost,
or like before what I said with like undermining the threat. It's like, I don't pick one of them and make them really imposing and threatening. It's weird. It seems like in the show they keep having these scenes where it's like this Inquisitor undermines this other Inquisitor, so it's like, oh, you're more threatening, and then it's like, but then this like, one of them undermines the other one.
One of them's like, give us the information, or we're gonna fucking kill you all.
Yeah,
and the other guy's like, no, we're not. You'll get rewarded. And then she's like, no, we're gonna kill them all.
Yeah,
but the other guy's like, no, shut up. Well, you're gonna get rewarded. And it's this weird, like, you're right, it's a weird back and forth where it's like, who's like, first of all, what's the point of this? Like,
why?
Like,
shouldn't you be this like super effective force? Yeah. Like, so
why are you squabbling between the two of you? And
especially because like the way they refer to each other is like brother and sister, as if they're this fraternal group that's like, we are this, and they've had well, I'll just assume that they've been together for about 10 years, somewhere around there, that they've been doing their job. So you'd think that they've had time to like be this effective force. So it's,
or at least if they do have this level of like quarreling amongst them, it's going to be more nuanced and like reveal more about their characters, and not just this like flat, we're gonna kill you, no we're not, we're gonna kill you, no we're not.
So I'll say that it's
that's
like
true.
Like maybe it's something that like by episode 6 it all works, and I get it, but it's like that's just something I noticed about episode 1, 2, and 3 was just like, it feels a little weird in that sense to me. And I kind of wish like the Inquisitor, that's like the one they focus on, I kind of wish they would just been like, she's ruthless, she's a fucking badass, look at how sick she is, and like just stick more with that so that I get scared of her. I'm like, oh god, she's a threat to like the characters that I'm rooting for.
Because it's sorry to keep going, but like it's kind of making me think a little bit. It's weird that she's kind of like this, I'm so ruthless, I don't care what anyone thinks. And then her like, no, the other Inquisitor's like, no, stop. And she's like, fine, I'll stop. And it's like, are you this ruthless badass who's gonna like, does that gonna track through, or are you not? I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's weird. It's a weird choice. It's a weird choice for sure.
And like I said, I hope that it comes together or whatever. I kind of wish you'd have seen episode 3, so that, because there's a few other things I'd mentioned, but that's kind of the gist of the idea, is that there's some characterization. And I'll say this too, I think the actress they got to portray young Leia is a good actress, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it was more just in episode 1 rather than episode 2. And I think it's probably just down to one of those things where like it takes a bit to like find your footing and stuff. I don't know if I can specifically point out instances, but it did feel a little bit, her characterization maybe felt, and it's like, obviously this is a much younger version of Princess Leia, and so like you can't expect to see the fucking Carrie Fisher version. Like you can't, that's too much to expect. But it's like, it's like maybe something like, I don't know if like maybe there could have been like a moment. I like that she's strong-headed, like it's the roots are there, but like maybe just a scene or two just to like really,
I feel like they're fighting a losing battle there. Just because Carrie Fisher, and she just embodied that character so much. So seeing any other portrayal of that same character, you're gonna disappoint someone somehow. And given that, I think they did an okay job.
Absolutely, totally
passable, workable, totally workable. But I think it's kind of like they were setting themselves up to lose there.
Yeah, it's like seeing a young Gandalf. It's like,
Exactly.
that's tough, man. It's like, it's such an iconic role.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for anybody. And once again, it's one of those things where this actress, like, let's say they continue doing stories, she'll have time to, like, grow into the role and, like,
but then you think,
it more.
To be fair, then that's what I first thought before I saw James McAvoy as young Professor X.
He just also owned it, I think, though.
Yeah, but but I'm saying, but like that was a scenario where it could have gone one of two ways. Like, I could have tanked, and he could have been shit.
Yeah,
but it was I don't want to say I liked it better, because I didn't. But like it's as good.
Just as good. Yeah,
it's almost just as good.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I agree with you. I think it is as good. It's just like Patrick Stewart is like Patrick Stewart, so it's tough to like to say that anybody's on that level. But it's like I agree. James McAvoy is an incredible Professor X. But yeah, I like one other criticism I want to levy just because it's something that I did notice about the show is I also think some of the action scenes, I don't know if it's weird choreography or ill planning, but there's two I can think of. There's one in the first episode and there's one in the second episode. And then the first one I'll say is a chase scene. And when you watch it, it feels so weird because you're
the Leia one.
Yeah, because you're like, there's no reason this should be going on as long as it is. And I don't know if it's just cut weird or they just were like really overestimate how much you believe that.
I think it was cut weird, and I think column A, column B. It really reminded me of. Sorry to bring it to Family Guy here for a second, but there's that Family Guy like cutaway gag where it's like Home Alone but with competent robbers.
Yeah,
and he's like Kevin's on the top of the stairs. He's like, "Okay, guys, come and get me." And then Robert just pulls his gun out and shoots Kevin in the face.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, no witnesses. Careful. There are toy cars all over the floor." And it's like it just ends.
Yeah.
And this, like, the reason I bring that up is that chase scene very much felt like
it was
like it should have just been the one person just fucking dives and tackles her and it's done. Like,
and I'm sure they could have shot it in a way that I could have suspended my disbelief and been like, oh, okay, it's because
it wasn't effective at all.
Yeah, the way that it was shot and delivered, you were just like, I just don't buy that this would happen this way.
It felt very campy.
Yeah,
it felt very campy.
If it was written in a book, I'd be like, oh yeah, totally. But seeing it visually, I was like, I don't know, man. And I'll say this about episode 2, there was, I don't want to say iffy wire work. Like, I'm sure the wire work was phenomenal, but the length of how long they held on the scenes
it was a little
like,
weird. It was a little weird.
I'm seeing the wires a little bit. It's like, it's kind of actually to throw back to Star Wars. It's like in episode 6, I think, there's this shot where Darth Vader jumps. And
yes, it's a weird shot.
And it's like, and you can kind of excuse it because it's an older movie, but it's like, you're like, I can tell that you're like hanging it in the air, sort of a bit weird. And it's like, I get that there's wires. So it was a little bit like that. It was like, these are cool. This is cool in theory. And I get why you shot this and then but it's like, you should have maybe just spent a little less time hanging on the shot because the second you become aware of the wires, and especially in Star Wars, because Star Wars usually doesn't feel that way.
No, I would honestly chalk it up to weird editing, honestly.
Yeah.
More than anything else. Especially because of how, I don't want to tear it apart, but that chase scene was it felt like it was from a show meant for like 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, not from a Star Wars property that's meant for, adults.
Yeah. I think I might chalk it up to, because it's something that I noticed a little bit in The Mandalorian as well, because they introduced the character of Ahsoka Tano. And when I was watching in The Mandalorian Ahsoka Tano, I was also kind of like, man, a little bit about this lightsaber fight, like some of it's awesome and then some of it feels not quite right. And I think what it is like maybe that is like, now we're talking about like how television is more difficult to portray this, because it's like we have less time to shoot, we have less choices in editing probably because we had to shoot it a certain way and a certain amount of time, and it's like maybe they're still ironing out how they film the Jedi and how they portray the Jedi's fuck it, we'll just go with this, how they portray the Jedi visually, and how's the best way to like show them jumping or show them fighting and stuff.
And as we see them evolve more, we're going to see less of this.
These,
because I agree, because it's not that it totally doesn't work.
No, yeah.
It's just like a little bit of awkwardness.
Yeah,
a little bit of weirdness.
It's like, because you're obviously your direct comparison is 1, 2, and 3 are the gold standard for lightsaber fights. But that's what you're comparing it to, and those are so meticulously choreographed and so meticulously edited that you're like,
well, they would have.
They're just, the bar for those fights is fucking through the goddamn roof.
I want to know how many takes they would have done per, and for how many different angles. You know what I
can't
mean?
imagine.
Like, the shot selection and editing would have been.
So it's another one of those things where you're just
how do you compare it to something like that?
And it's like because what you're comparing to is so excellent. Like I hope that what it is like they just need more time to like really iron out like, okay, when we're shooting the Jedi fights in for this television format, these are kind of the rules we need to abide by so that we get the best look and the best whatever. And I could totally chalk it up to that. So I mean, maybe we should probably start wrapping up here.
I don't really have much else to say. I think cautiously optimistic is how I would kind of describe what I feel about the show. Like, I
gotta say, I've really enjoyed episode 1, 2, and 3. There are certain small things that for sure, like, I've noticed, but like, I don't know. It's such a pleasure to me to see Ewan McGregor back in the role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love seeing Joel Edgerton. I love seeing the bridge between episode 3 and episode 4. Pleasure to see. Not a lot of, I'm one of the few that thinks of this, but it's like I actually really like Hayden Christensen, and so I'm really excited to see him be that character again. And I just like, there's this, I don't know why, it's probably because I grew up with them, but it's like there's a level of brotherhood between Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. It's like I can't take them apart from each other, and it just feels good seeing them in a thing together again, because I'm getting those feels that I had when I was a kid and I was watching episode 1, 2, and 3.
That's fair, yeah.
So I gotta say, it's like I've never been like I got excited about episode 7, and then I lost excitement episode 8, and then 9 killed my fucking excitement. Rogue One kept it alive, and Solo I also think is underrated, and I quite enjoyed Solo. But I gotta say that the Star Wars television, to me, it has fucking just brought back my excitement and a lot of my passion that I had when I was a kid for this franchise. And like, I just like
totally agree.
Yeah, the quality here is at quite a high level, I think.
Yeah, and I would say lots. Despite the few criticisms, I would say there's more right than wrong.
Absolutely.
Overall.
I would totally agree with that. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, that no question, check this show out, decide for yourself whether you enjoy it or not. If you're not a Star Wars fan, this probably isn't going to convert anyone new, but who knows? No,
but if you're into it already, this is it, exactly. It's a good continuation to what they're already doing, and I definitely think worth checking out if you're already sold.
Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode, whatever we review. Jurassic World's coming out next month, so we'll be reviewing that soonish. We want to review Waterworld, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you later.